Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY webinar, Live Forex Market Review. My name is Duncan Cooper. Before we get into it, if you can all read through the disclaimer. For those on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to watch. You can join us in the webinar with the link that I've given you if you want to come in and talk, but I can't see the chat while I'm doing the webinar. For those in the webinar, you can use the chat box or the Q&A box to talk to me. So just take the time to read through the disclaimer before we move along. We'll move along. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper, Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at ACY Securities. And about myself, full-time Forex trader, been trading now for more than 15 years, mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email's there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. You can connect with us through the week at our website, acy.com, go to the Market News tab, or our YouTube channel at ACY Securities Australia. And if you want to connect with me personally, just head over to my Linktree page. And if you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates, the ones I'm using in the webinars, just contact Nathan.bray. His email's there on screen, but I'll put that in the chat for everybody. He can organize that for you if you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates for MT4. All right, so let's get into the news for the day. Forexfactory.com, times are my time, Queensland, New South Wales time. So really, news for today now, 10:30 p.m. from the US with unemployment claims figures coming out. And then tomorrow we have the UK retail sales at 4 p.m. Already had the unemployment figures for the Aussie today, which were, well, negative and positive. Slightly better unemployment rate, but not as many jobs created by the looks. I think that's how we read it. So that being said, I think the Aussie's been going up a little bit, but it was due at 1 or 2 days up anyway. All right, let's get into the charts then. So this is how I was looking at the dollar index on Tuesday. I was saying we probably need some form of pullback. This needs to be updated a fraction from Tuesday's move up. Now we're just pulling back at the moment. You know, do we get a deeper pullback within this range on the day chart, or are we going to actually hold above this 105.87 level? The 105.87 level, if you go to the weekly chart, is this area over here to the left. So we're in a clear uptrend on all time frames at the moment. It's just having a little bit of a 1 or 2 day pullback at the moment. There's not a lot of news to really change things, but it's just a question of, we've had a very massive run up last week. We may want to pull back within this whole range that we formed, maybe back to the 62 level. We'll have to wait and see how deep the pullback can be. Pairs to the US dollar, some of them are rallying right now back to potential resistance level. So maybe we are getting support in this area. We'll have to wait and see. S&P500, this fibs across the weekly range. So this is the most immediate range here on the weekly. We're having a corrective phase of the weekly run up. We could pull back to the old historical top, 48.16, if it really wants to get a deep pullback. It's worth monitoring this range to see where we pull back to. At the moment on the daily, we are in a downtrend on the daily as we're in that corrective phase against the weekly trend, which is up. So, you know, if we're going to continue down, we probably need a rally at the moment. This is very much overextended, so I would be watching pull back to 62 level here, 51.49. You got 51.42 as broken support. You know, if you want to be trading down, if you think we're trading down to support down here at 48.16, you want to be looking to sell a rally. You don't want to be selling on the 2, 4, 7th day down. 6th or 7th day down, it's going to rally for sure at some point after so many days down. So you have to be patient and wait for the next opportunity to sell a rally. So I would look up there at the 51.42 to 49 area and see what happens there. Do we start to turn over? All right, let's get into the currencies. Now, the euro dollar, go to the daily chart. Had a very nice move down last week, rallying Wednesday into Thursday. Clear area of broken support here at 106.94. And another level there at 107.23. So for me, that is the zone to watch for price to come into, hold, and turn back around. So the 4-hour trend at the moment is just showing to be up as we're moving up to that area. It's got a fraction short on the current close 4-hour candle. Have we topped out? Is that the end of the move up? Or are we able to actually get up to broken support? I'd much prefer I drop this down to 50-minute chart. There's the 106.94 level, so that's actually broken weekly support being resistance. I'd much prefer, if I was looking for a short here at the moment, to see price to come up to 106.94 up to 107, the figure, and then see what price does. Does it start to hold there and reverse? The fact that we haven't got there yet, I just feel maybe we haven't finished moving up yet today. So I'm not that fussed about trying to get long because the dominant trend on the high time frames is down. So looking for where does this one to 2 day rally finish at the moment for maybe the opportunity to trade down. So watching up here at 106.94 to 107.00. Euro yen, after last week's decline, we pretty much came all the way back up. So this is my 4-hour chart. That's the high of last week to the low of last week. You can see we come all the way back up to 4-hour resistance over here that we false broke last week. Became resistance here. So went above, false broke, became resistance there to start the move down last week. So definitely not where you want to buy whilst the 4-hour trend is an uptrend there. Day chart here, that's how it looks. So we're coming back to this day chart top over here to the left. There's a possibility of left shoulder, head right shoulder here. So that high to the left there is at 164.90. And we've been up to a couple of pips short of that today. So can we move above or are we going to top out? If you wanted to get long this week, you should have got long by now because this is, you're back up to the ceiling from where we sold off down from last week. So, all right, the 4-hour trend is still up here, but if we start to, watch the 4-hour candles in this area now to 164.90, if we get a rejection candle as well, if you see the euro dollar starting to sell off, let's say the euro dollar does get up to the area I just discussed, that will probably drive this up to challenge 164.90 up to 165, and then what happens there? Do we get a 4-hour rejection candle or do we get so very similar area to very similar price points, kind of 90 area to the figure on the euro yen, similar on the euro dollar. We're going to come into there and stall and top out today, tomorrow, for a move back down. I'm not going to buy up here. It's too high up. If I see a trigger reversal for short, great. If I don't see anything, I'll just have to wait. All right, euro pound. Just today's chart here. It's very range bound, as you can see. We're coming back up here. Personally, I'll look at something else to trade, but resistance is up here at 85.75 at the moment. If we draw a fib across that range at the moment that's being formed this week, 79% low is where we're at. So will it come up to 85.75 to further test and hold, or is it topping out at the 79% level? Last 4-hour candles kind of maybe telling you that we're not going any higher, massive rejection in the last 4-hour candle. So it may come back up. But certainly, if you want to try and get the best price and you're prepared to be patient, look up into this area, 85.71 to 75. But we may have already topped out, so you might have to get down to a lower time frame and look for your intraday setup to get short. All right. So if we are topping out up there, we could well be then moving down to retest support. Can we move down through to the lower level of support, last month's low, and the 120 extension? All right, it's very range bound at the moment, so don't expect maybe for it to break down into a trend. It may just come back down to support and hold. So the question there is, have we topped out already up there at the 79% level, or can it get back up into that area for a better price? If you haven't already traded, that is. All right, pound dollar. All right, so trends are down on weekly chart, daily chart, and it's questionable what the trend is on the monthly chart, but we had a false break of this lower top last month. This is the monthly chart, big rejection. We could be putting in a lower top area here for the long term. The weekly trend is down here to a lower bottom. There's another there's a lower top here going to be forming to a lower bottom. And this is in the downtrend of the day. So this rally is a question of where is it going to maybe stall and finish. 2-day rally. Monday, I said this on Tuesday, we couldn't quite get up to 125.00. We broke below it Friday, got a couple of pips short of it Monday. So this is a weekly area over here. So there's actually two weekly areas, 125.00, 125.18. So that is the area where you'd very much anticipate price to stall at if we could get up there. As I said before, if I'm seeing dominant trends down on all time frames, I'm not going to be looking to buy this pair. I'm just wanting to see where it maybe could top out. What I was doing in my fib tool before, had a fib drawn on my 4-hour chart like so, and the 127 extension of the upward move here overlaps with the 125.00 level. So that would be, and there's a high here from Monday. So that would be an area that I would watch for a possible reversal, the 15-minute chart. Of course, we're not up there at the moment. We're struggling to really get a movement above yesterday's high here. So I like to find the highest probability levels, then wait for these levels to be touched and traded at. So whether we can get up to, I don't even know on a day whether my levels are going to get traded to. I just pick out my levels and I'm just waiting to see if price can get to my levels. So my level on the pound, if I wanted to get short, would be up here. We're into the red pivot points, 125.00 the figure, weekly resistance, and 127 extension of the intraday 4-hour trend at the moment, which is up, pull back. Can we complete this upward move there to then come back down? And maybe come back down now, to put in a lower top up here longer term on the day chart. So that would be the area that I would be watching. We could have already topped out here. This is always the problem when you're looking at particular levels where the market might fail at. We might not get there. We may have already failed, because we did come down here to break this low. So there is a drop here. This is rallied of that small range. This is rallied to the 79% level. So we could have topped there and then be moving down. But I personally would wait for the higher level if we could get there. But you might actually like that failure and maybe are looking to get short on the failure of yesterday's high. And Azu, you're saying pound might have a slight recession, cutting rates with inflation Hi. Well, inflation, we've got inflation figures yesterday, which just went up 0.1 for the year, but inflation is relatively low at what, 3.2. So the UK may be getting closer to cutting their rates than the US at the moment. So I think I did see a headline yesterday, I think it was from Barclays, one of the banks anyway, one of the large banks, saying they're expecting the pound to go down to around about 120. Which you take with a pinch of salt, but you know, I think the pound's going down. And, as I said on Tuesday, we could well be coming down. I think it was Barclays was saying we're going down to 121, and I've been discussing are we coming down to test this area, which is 120.37. So trends are down. This is just corrective at the moment. 1 or 2 days correction. Don't get excited that this is going to the moon. It's just doing what price normally does. Correction and then correction against a trend. Pound yen, very choppy. This is how I had my fibs drawn. This is the area highlighted on Tuesday to watch for a test. You can see you've had at least five candles in the area. Today we may be just coming up to put in a little 79% area here. Don't really need that fib on anymore. We're at the 79% level here of this range. I'd much prefer, if I wanted to get short this pair up here, I'd much prefer the area that I've got highlighted here around the 192.78 level. That's 79% fib of that range, which really just needs to be adjusted down to there, potentially. 192.77. That's all where that whole area has been holding at. So are we topping out up there to move down, or we could just be topping out up there just to stay in the range, but it's rather range bound over the most immediate period between here and here. And so this isn't the buy zone because we're almost back up to the top of the range. The question is, are we holding at the 79% level, or are we moving up to one small test, the biggest 79% level at 192.77? So let's just drop it to the 15. You can watch for a failure here at this 79% level, watch your trigger to get in, or you could look up to the top. That area up there. 192.77 to 192.83. What price has been doing in this drop yesterday? Price has just come up to fill any imbalance that got formed yesterday. So the imbalance restarted here. So it may well top out at this 79% level because there's no more imbalances here to fill. So you can decide whether you want to start to look for your reversal here, or you're going to wait for the high level. Okay, Aussie yen. Now, not able to. It's not really going up too strong, but it's not able to at the moment to the day chart. It's not able to hold below this weekly top over here. This is my day chart. There's an area over here that's getting some form of support from, and also from this area over here. So between that high and that high, yes, price is getting into that area, but can't hold down there. But last week we had a very significant reversal from a very high area on the monthly chart to the left here. So with that weekly chart reversal last week, we've already rallied 62% within inside that candle. And now what we're seeing is some form of a bounce here. Are we, structurally going to be able to hold any form of downtrend? At the moment we're holding, we're start of the week, that was last week's high to low. We came up to the 62% level. Now we're trading, focusing within this range. We're just a little bit above the 62 at the moment. Are we going to continue down? We have put in a fresh low this week versus last week, but it's coming up because the Aussie dollar is coming up. So, are we going to start to see a failure here at 99.48? So around about 99.50. Bit choppy here on the 15-minute chart. It's most definitely struggling here. So if you were wanting to get short for another move down to try and test last week's low down here at the 90, it's about the 98.72 level. You see whether it's going to test these highs again and hold. You could be saying closer there with a very tight stop. And are we going to see, it's a little bit range bound here. We're going to see test, hold, come down. Can we break down? And of course, we can move higher. The Aussie dollar keeps moving up. This will probably still keep moving up. But if you look at the Aussie dollar as well to see what that's doing, then we could be topping out here. Aussie dollar, if we get to the Aussie dollar, it's already starting to maybe come down. Again, range bound here too on the 15-minute, but it's just starting to maybe break a little bit to the downside. So day chart, it's coming at 2-day rally or 1.5 days rally. It's coming into this weekly support level. There's another one here. So 2 levels that we broke. One last week, second one this week. So from 64.42 to 64.77 is the area where we could move into, or we have been moving into, and where we could move back out of to continue the downtrend. Are we coming down long term to 62.70 down here? So if this starts to hold back below 64.42, Aussie yen may well, be turning over. All right, for our charts, we've actually rallied back up to last week's low, which is 64.55. There's a little range here. 62% level there, overlapping with last week's low. High probability area for reversal. All right, now we may come back, obviously we've tested that a number of times already today, and now we're starting to put in a couple of lower tops here on the 15-minute chart, so you can't go back in time and sell up here. But you never know when the US job claims data comes out later in the day. It could just have enough volatility to get back up to 64.53. To look for maybe the opportunity to sell up here, trade down. So it's just managing to hold above 64.42 at the moment. I would want to sell in today in case it flips back to support, but if, today into tomorrow, if we start to see a break below 64.42, does that become intraday resistance? At the moment, it's intraday support, but does it flip to become resistance? Because if it does, that's just confirming that we've had the 2-day rally now, and we want to start to head back down. Okay. All right, let's get into New Zealand yen. This is very range bound. It's actually in the middle of support down here and resistance up here, which we'll just have a look on the day chart. It's getting quite range bound. So I'd actually could go either way. This pair at the moment is in the middle of the range. It doesn't like it up here at 92.19 to 92.40. That's where the market's been topping out and reversing down from. And then down here, we've got support from 90.41, 90.51 to 90.41 down here. So that's the range that the market's respecting. I don't like to trade in the middle, so I would need to look for the market, this pair, to get to the outskirts. All right. Generally, at the moment, if you take into account what happened last week, when pairs to the US dollar were moving down, pairs to the yen, with the exception of the dollar yen, were moving in a correlated move to the pairs moving down to the US dollar. So I would be inclined to maybe take the bias to look to the short side, because that's where the general correlation's been. Of course, that correlation can shift. So I would generally just looking at the top side at the moment. I'm not going to trade in the middle, so I have to wait to see which side of the market this price is going to move to. So watch up here at 92.19 or down here at 90.41. Do we get to the outskirts? Do you see a reversal that you want to trade up or down from the outskirts? All right, New Zealand dollar. This is the area that I had highlighted on Tuesday. We've actually, just like the Aussie dollar, we've just come back up. This on my 4-hour chart here, this is last week's low area. Just come back up to last week's low that we've broken. And we can't quite get back to daily broken support at 59.39. So last week's low trends down on all the time frames, on the high time frames. Last week's low is 59.33, overlaps with the 79% level there. We'll just trade pretty much there to the pip. Are we topping out there? To the 15, just starting to get a swing point break here after a little 15-minute triple top forming. So we're definitely getting an intraday reversal at the moment. Is that confirming now that we're moving down from the area? So you need to, if you like the New Zealand dollar, are we topping out there? What's your trigger to get short if we are topping out up there? Of course, if this is going to be coming down, we're going to see the Aussie probably follow suit. They're highly correlated at the best of times, and I would say, I think at the moment they're very much correlated at the moment. What's the Aussie yen doing? Right, so Aussie and an Aussie dollar there, they're struggling to hold the highs at the moment. Just want to see what the Euro yen's doing as well. It's coming back up for another possible test up there at the moment. What's the pound dollar doing? All right. New Zealand dollar we just covered. So are we starting to reverse? Dollar Canadian. We had their CPI data come out, which was a little bit lower on the prints, which shot the dollar Canadian up. And, dollar Canadian has been rather range bound in a number of ranges for quite a long time. So inflation data is getting a little bit better, which is dollar Canadian positive. Whether or not it's positive enough to break the actual large range that we've just moved to the top of, on the monthly chart here, back up to just short of the high to the left here at 138.61. I mean, we could be topping out there to move all the way back down, or we're just having a breather before we can maybe try to move through the area. But be very aware up here if you're a dollar Canadian trader. We're back up to where we keep selling off from. All right. Support's down here. Long-term support's way down here at the moment. So we're putting a higher bottom here. So we might be able to move through to 127 extension over time. We'll just have to wait and see. All right. Like the dollar index here, looking very similar, 2-day pullback. So how much of a pullback can we get before maybe we get some support to move higher? There's a top over here that we moved above. Is this, you could watch 137.65 today. We're below it at the moment. But if we start to close above there on a 4-hour chart, that might be the area where we get support after a 2-day, 1.5 day, 2-day correction to move higher. If we don't get back above 137.65, then we're probably, next major level of support at the moment is down here at 136.47. So that's quite a big pullback. 4-hour trend is showing you down at the moment, but if we get a strong close back above 137.65, begs the question then, are we getting set to move up? So I'll just be monitoring to see how the day goes at 137.65 on a 50-minute chart. Now that we're below, one of two things are going to happen today. We could well come back to retest that level and it becomes resistance. So at the moment, we've dropped below, so you would expect it to be resistance. So you can watch that area to trade down from, in line with the 2-day reversal that we're having. But don't forget where the dominant trend is actually up. So personally, I would wait for maybe the market to break this area. Does it become support intraday to move higher? If it doesn't, I would just leave it alone. Because if the US dollar is going to reclaim its strength after a 1.5, 2 days rally, you don't want to be short the dollar Canadian because it's going to move higher again. So, US dollar trend is up. So I'm not that fussed about trying to buck that trend at the moment on any pair that's got the US dollar in it. All right. Dollar franc. It's in the area that I highlighted on Tuesday. So is this area going to hold? This lower line is it's actually a monthly area of support from over here. Was resistance, is it now support? Okay. So we've been rather sideways in here. And on the 4-hour chart, this is the range I've been monitoring. So we're back into support. The monthly level of support, the 79% fib level there at 9090. So really, if we get back above 91, 15, or even right now, we're seeing the potential of, there's definitely a trend line break already occurring here. You could get a really, really tight entry right now if you wanted to get long. Buying stop just below the intraday low isn't going to cost you too many pips. It's not going to cost you much more, wouldn't cost you more than 15, probably less than 15 if you're clicking in right now, to see if this area is going to hold to then move back up to at least the top of the range. Okay. So you can monitor that. Of course, if this is going to move up from this area, the likes of the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, the euro dollar, and maybe the pound dollar as well are going to maybe move back down. I say on the dollar franc, the trend on the monthly chart is actually down. I go to the monthly chart, whilst I've got stuff from the other time frames. There's a lower top to a lower bottom on the monthly chart, and it's correcting all the way back up the range at the moment. The weekly chart here, there's the monthly high, monthly low. And we're coming all the way up back up to the high depth. So it is where we could top, where we could top out. So you have to make a decision. Do you want to get long to see whether we can break above and continue up, or are we topping out? So yeah, the monthly trend isn't up, but all the other trends are up at the moment. Day chart's getting a little bit sideways in here, but if we're going to hold above what is the monthly support level, 90.84, which we're into today and holding. If support's holding as we're talking, it's moving higher. Now you're going to have to risk maybe the best part of 20 pips now if you want to get in. It's already moved 5 pips as we're talking. So it's definitely bouncing off the known area of support. So I'm guessing the euro is selling off a bit, and the pound dollar is selling off a bit. Aussie dollars sitting on top of that 64.42 level at the moment. So it does look a little bit like we're getting US dollar strength coming back. All right, let's go into dollar yen. All right, so the area I've been watching, which it hasn't pulled back to, we got the Bodge coming doing their monetary report information next Friday, not this Friday, tomorrow, but a week on Friday. So at the moment, we're still holding an uptrend. For me to buy this pair, I'd need to see a nice healthy dip, which we're not really getting. I don't want to look down to the area that we've broken above at around about the 152 area. This area here. All right, we're not getting anywhere near that. And for me, this is so high up at the moment. Market wouldn't let this go above 152, and now we're above 154. How high is the Bodge going to let this go before it intervenes? And I have seen on the 15-minute chart some, big spike down here on a 15-minute candle the other day. I think there has been a little bit of intervention here and there. So the 4-hour chart at the moment is a little bit sideways here at the moment. For me personally, I just need to see a very healthy pullback if I wanted to get long this pair. And I'm not saying I want to short it at the moment, but I wouldn't want to be buying at such high levels, because at such high levels, if I get in and buy it, and then the Bodge comes in and intervenes just for 100 pips, I'm going to be on the wrong side, aren't I? So for me, dollar yen's very difficult at the moment. But on the day chart, if it was to pull back into this zone, back down to pretty much 152, or into this 62.79% zone here, then I could entertain in that area that could be support for the next leg up. But at the moment, I just feel it's a dangerous area at the moment. All right, let's get into gold. This is the area that I highlighted on Tuesday. I think price was up here at the time. I don't think it came down on that candle. I think it had already been down there when I was discussing on Tuesday. So that fib on my 4-hour chart here is drawn across last week's candle, low to high. And you can see where support is from the previous week and where we've moved down into this week. In fact, I don't think that may have been the previous week. Let me just check. Calendar 15th on Monday. All right, so that was Monday's low, and we haven't been able to get down into the depths of there. But that, for me, is still where the area of support is for gold. If it can pull back, that's where I would look for the buy side. And let's just go to the day chart. Still very much in an uptrend. So I can't look at buying so high. I could look in this zone of support if price could pull back to that area, maybe to then contemplate being a buyer. But at such high levels, I mean, I can see some legs here. It's kind of a leg here. Then we've got a little bit sideways. Then there's a kind of another leg here. Now we might go a little bit sideways here, then put another leg in. But you'd want to see it get down to a lower area to buy when this is at such historical highs. All right, that's how I look at it anyway. So, and often in a very strong trend, So weekly chart. All we often do is just trade within the range of the weekly candle. We pull back within the range of the weekly candle and then move up to the high of the week. So at the moment, we have pulled back to the 79% level of the high to low of last week, which that's how I had my fib drawn on the 4-hour chart. So if we're not going to really reverse, we won't break last week's low, but we could just trade back within the range of last week's trading. And the area is 23.18. So 23.30 to 23.18. That's where I would expect support to come if we get a dip. And then you may need to make a decision. Do you want to look to trade up from that area? Or if you just think it's way too high, there's another very good level here. This is last month's high. So the top of last month's candle, which we traded above, is at 23.36, which is just fractionally above this area of broken resistance for support at 22.22. So 22.22 is this area here, which I know is a long way away from where price is, but when we get so overpriced, sooner or later this thing is going to pull back and correct because it's just overpriced. All right. Doesn't say we're going to get a trend change, but people take profits. It's like on the S&P 500. I was saying over the last 4 weeks that this is way too high priced. Sooner or later, you're going to get caught at the top because now we're retracing. So, if you just take, let's draw this over here. When we have trends, once we're at the high part of the trend, it's going to retrace and then move up and then do the next retrace. So on gold at the moment, we're in this zone where it is, it's more likely at some point to have a corrective phase. So it's always at your to be cautious. When it's so far overextended, you have to be cautious because that's movement down here is what's happening over here at the moment in the S&P 500. Just got way too high and overpriced and just needs a normal correction. That's, I would say, maybe gold's getting into that territory. All right, so that's my thoughts on the market at the moment. We're just having a 1.5 to 2 day correction. Let's just go and have a look at these pairs to the US dollar again. Aussie dollar, it's not wanting quite yet to break back below 64.42. That's moved above today. So they chart here. It's just holding above here at the moment. But if we don't close above there today, then I would then suspect we're going to have a day down tomorrow. If we close above there today, we're probably going to be heading up to the higher level of resistance. Euro dollar seemingly, just got the 4-hour chart. Doji kind of candle there, doesn't quite want to get up to the resistance area. This major broken weekly support here, 106.94. Couldn't quite get there. Is it going to get there? I'm sure plenty of people were buying here because we had a rejection candle there on that day and then we broke below. So plenty of people will be wanting to clear some long positions. So we may not be able to get there. So if we get a nice little reversal candle there today, we've probably topped there and expect the continuation of the trend to the downside. Pound can't get up to the resistance area. Actually broke below supports, couldn't quite get there. It missed it by a few pips on Monday. So we may be not getting up to that level today. We may just be topping out right now to move down. as well. In all probability, Monday's high. Whilst this is an uptrend on the 4-hour chart, there's a range here, and there's a 79% area there where we held at yesterday, and we're holding there today. So have to make a decision. I mean, you could be selling at that 79% area, and yes, we could come up and retest resistance. So strategy here, if you're wanting to get shorts, maybe we do come back up to the 79% area. You could be selling here and putting your stop above these two resistance areas. So get it a little bit above 25.18. So that if it does come up to test these areas, well, at least you've got your stop above the areas, and you may well be able to hold that trade without getting stopped out, and then a reversal comes. So at the moment, a few things could happen on that pound. It could be topping out right now at that 79% area of this range, or the US news later in the day might just drag this up to hit the broken support area. So I don't worry about missing out. I would much prefer to wait to see if price can hit the resistance area today. If it doesn't, then tomorrow I can look to get short, maybe a slightly lower price. But there's always the question there, is it stopping at the 79% level there? And then starting to move down. All right, the euro dollar is looking a little bit suspicious, like it can't get it up to its resistance level. So if that pair can't, maybe the pound can't too. All right, that's my final thoughts. Next week's webinars, just head over to the webinar page, give you an update. More analysis next Tuesday. My webinars are 7 p.m. Sydney time all week. Wednesday, I'm going to go through the average true range and session opening times, how they affect the market, and more analysis next Thursday. So if you want to join me, just head over to the webinar page, register your interest, and I look forward to seeing you. Okay. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week and enjoy your weekend. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.